Alright, fuckers. Corey Margera here, and this episode is going to be a fucking rant on a certain fucking documentary that is so damn biased and so full of shit. And so it's not even they didn't even put that much effort into this. Yes, I still own the DVD, but it's like a DVD I watched just to relive that era, not so much because it's a good DVD. And I'm pretty sure you guys know by now just by looking at the title. This is the DVD I'm fucking talking about. And the only reason I even watched this DVD still, well, I haven't watched it in a while. I just watched it again this morning. And holy fucking shit. Holy fucking shit. This is a disgrace. This is an absolute, like, they don't even, it's amazing how this could have been such a much better DVD. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. This could have been such a much better DVD. Should have had a shitload of more content. Much better documentary. And I'm going to explain why this DVD is such a load of crap. Okay? First of all, I find it funny how WWE likes to talk shit about all of WCW's flaws and mistakes. And hell, I have no problem with that. But it's funny how the WWE will never acknowledge their own fucking mistakes and their shitty gimmicks. And, just the type of shit that they were doing prior to the Monday Night War after the 1980s. Just a whole bunch of ridiculous, retarded crap that, you can't even make up. I just find that so funny. For every Bastion Booger, every King Mabel, every Mantar, every shitty gimmick that you guys had during the early 90s, and hell, even some of the retarded shit you had during the Attitude Era. And I'm glad you finally pointed out some of the stupid shit that you did with the Attitude Era DVD, which is another DVD I kind of want to do a rant on, just because you guys don't even go into a lot of the DVD. That DVD was short as fuck. That DVD was short as fuck. You don't even talk about the Attitude Era that much. You just talk about, like, the celebrities it attracted, and, like, The Rock and Austin, and just stuff that we already knew. There needs to be there should have been a much better version of the Attitude Era DVD. Kind of like the rise and fall of ECW. That's what the Attitude Era deserved. And the fact that you gave it a half-assed fucking 50-something, like 58-minute documentary, that was pathetic. That was absolutely pathetic. Fuck you. But, it's just amazing, like, how WWE likes to trash WCW. And it's funny because the WWE and Vince McMahon and even, like, a lot of people in that company are just so damn cheesy. You guys are a bunch of cunts. I'm going to be flat out honest with you. Alright? The WWE is like a skank, a fucking cunt, who talks so much shit about you, yet she would be the first one to suck your dick. That is exactly what she tries to play hard to get. She's acting like a skank and a bitch. Yeah, she would be the first one to suck your dick. All right, she's like, it's like the WWE has Helga G. Pataki syndrome. And for any of you who grew up in the 90s and watched Hey Arnold, I'm pretty sure you'll get that fucking joke. Because the WWE has fucking Helga G. Pataki syndrome. And that's a fact. That is documented fact. Because like, I mean, and what's funny about this DVD is also how it only goes into the NWO and Goldberg. That's pretty much all this DVD talks about as far as WCW is concerned. You know, they don't bring up like how both companies had shitty gimmicks. Like WCW had Dungeon of Doom. You know, they didn't talk about like how Hogan used to get booed when he was originally in WCW prior to well, I mean well, they kind of touch on it, but I mean it barely. I mean it's just like they don't even talk about a lot of the other things that WCW was doing. It wasn't just the NWO and Goldberg. It was fucking Diamond Dallas Page, which you motherfuckers buried with that stupid stalking the Undertaker's wife angle, which made no sense. I mean, it kind of, you could try to justify it due to the fact that on back in 2000, you know, DDP and Kimberly split up due to Vince Russo's crazy fucking booking and his crazy storyline writing. But I mean, it's just like, and you could try to justify, like, had they done that, like, ever since, you know, DDP, like, ever since I left Kimberly Page, you know, ever since I lost Kimberly in WCW, which you fans probably don't know about because you're watching this shitty New York promotion or this shitty Stanford promotion, whatever, you know, Northern promotion. You know, I've been having a lust for pussy. I've been having a lust, and you know what? The Undertaker, I want your bitch, or something like that. I want Sarah. Like, even if they went along and did something like that, that would have been better. But, you know, they fucking, you know, they buried him like a motherfucker. Didn't even acknowledge that he was really a star in WCW either. Like, they didn't talk about, like, how he was doing programs with Karl Malone, Hogan, and Dennis Rodman. You know, they didn't talk about how over he was and shit. You know, how he gave Goldberg one of his best matches and shit. You know, something Triple H couldn't even do. But I'll be honest, I think the Goldberg Triple H matches get a lot of hate. They aren't as bad as the internet marks claim them to be. You know, they're not as bad as, you know, some of you marks out there claim them to be. Triple H Goldberg matches aren't that bad. Yes, the Elimination Chamber where they fucked him over, that was shit. That was stupid, but, you know, I mean, at least he finally won the fucking title. It's not like they signed him and never let him get a fucking title. Which brings me to my next point, like how, kind of what they're doing with Sting right now. You know, and it's funny how they don't even bring up Sting in this DVD. Like, it's almost like he's the forbidden one. We can't mention Sting. You know, and this made no sense to me because they had no problem, you know, talking about ECW wrestlers that weren't with the company at the time, like the Sandman and Sabu and the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD. So why couldn't they talk about Sting? You know, he was a huge part of the show. He was a huge part of the company. You know, when he came back in 1996 as the Crow character, you know, that resonated with people. That was a badass character. You know, that was fucking awesome. You know, they don't even talk about Starrcade 1997. They don't even talk about that in this DVD. Hell, they don't even talk about the fucking NWO Wolfpack. Like, and even if you wanted to bury the NWO Wolfpack, which I'm pretty sure they would have done, I mean, they don't even talk about the Finger Poke of Doom in this DVD. They just talk about how, you know, Goldberg was getting arrested that night because, you know, he was stalking. I think they were claiming that he was stalking Miss Elizabeth. I forgot that episode, but I had to do my research to find out because I don't know if I was watching Nitro that night, you know, but I was probably watching Raw. But I don't, because I basically after 1998 I was more of a fan of WWF and ECW. So I was watching more of those promotions than WCW, but I used to watch all three of them. So, but, you know, basically they don't even talk about the Finger Poke of Doom. They don't talk about the NWO Wolfpack in this DVD, which they eventually talk about in the NWO Revolution DVD. But, I mean, why wouldn't you talk about it in this DVD? You're talking about the Monday Night Wars. You know, you should be talking about, like, the good and bad in both companies. the bad on your side, WWE. You should be talking about Mae Young giving birth to a hand. You should be talking about how stupid it was that Rikishi was the one who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, you should be talking about some of your misses as well. I'm just saying, you know, but I mean, I just find that funny. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing, like how, but like everybody wants to pretend like the Attitude Era was so perfect, and how it was like flawless, and it was just an amazing time to be a wrestling fan. I'm not gonna fucking bullshit you, but the Attitude Era had a lot of stupid shit. I mean, it was definitely better than what we're getting today, and even in my opinion, it was better than a lot of the Ruthless Aggression era. But I mean, it's just funny how, the WWE doesn't like to talk about their flaws during, like, the New Generation, In Your House, and Attitude Era. Yet they want to, talk about, I mean, they talk about the Billionaire Ted skits, and, like, the Nacho Man, and the Hawkster, and all that, but, I mean, and they talk about how they take a shot at Mean Gene and stuff, but, I mean, and that's pretty good. Some of that stuff is pretty good. Like, I like how they go into detail on that shit, but I mean, it's just like so. In the beginning of the documentary, they talk about there's so many unanswered questions that remain unanswered to this day. And you go into the DVD, the documentary, thinking like you're gonna get a lot of information. You're gonna get a good history lesson, for even fans who weren't even watching wrestling during the time, or people who don't even watch wrestling, and it kind of gives them an insight on why we love wrestling, and just the controversy and the shock value and the storylines and the unpredictability and the craziness of it all, and why real wrestling fans love this business, and just why we love this form of entertainment, this form of sports entertainment, why we love it, to even a certain someone who I love, and I can't wait to see her tonight. But and that she used to be in the wrestling when she was younger, but she stopped watching it. She missed like the entire 1990s, the Monday Night Wars era, the Attitude Era, Nitro, and all that good stuff. She missed that, and in this DVD, I wanted to show her. This is just why, guys like me and some guys in my generation, why we love wrestling and have a passion for it. Just because of how fucking unpredictable it was. People from the WWF showing up to, Nitro, and Nash and Hall and Lex Luger showing up Monday night on Nitro and shit, and you just all that crazy shit. You had, the Radicals, which and that's another thing. That's another thing. I love how and I'm a huge fan of Chris Jericho. I'm a huge fan. Well, I used to be a huge fan of Chris Jericho. I'm not anymore, but a lot of these guys, like, your Eddie Guerreros, your Chris Benoits, your Dean Malenkos, they all talk about Rey Mysterio. They all talk about how they were held down in WCW. And the fact of the matter is, you motherfuckers can't draw on a main event level. Okay? Rey Mysterio in 2006 as World Heavyweight Champion was fucking pathetic. And you guys want to talk about, you Billy Kidmans and all these people want to talk, all these vanilla midgets want to talk all this shit about how they were held down in WCW and they weren't given an opportunity. Well, some of you motherfuckers were given an opportunity. Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, let's face it, you guys are not main eventers. You guys are not championship material. All right, you got the title because the WWE felt sorry for you and because you betrayed WCW and joined them. That's the reason you became champion. That's the reason. And probably because Triple H admired your in-ring ability or something. But that's the reason you motherfuckers became champion. Right? Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit are not the draws of like a Stone Cold, The Rock, or even a fucking Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I mean, let's tell it like it is. They're not even on a Mick Foley level of drawing power. People would rather watch Mick Foley, and this is a fact. This is a documented fact. The casual wrestling fan would rather watch Mick Foley fall off a Hell in a Cell or be WWF commissioner than watch Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit be world champion. And that's a fact. That cannot be debated. All you internet smart marks that think you know the business, and you fucking don't. You fucking don't. You literally do not know the business. You do not realize that wrestling is entertainment. It's a pseudo sport, but at the end of the day, it's entertainment. It's about shock value. It's about entertainment. It's about entertaining the fans. All right, wrestling is the only sport that has storylines. There's no other sport ever that has storylines. There's no other sport that has storylines. And that's what makes wrestling special. You know, there's no other sport where you could, like, get into... I mean, like, can you imagine, like, some arena football guys invading the NFL and beating the shit out of the New England Patriots and beating the shit out of Tom Brady or something like that? All right, could you imagine Vin Diesel and if Paul Walker was still alive and the rest of the motherfuckers from the Fast and the Furious movies invading NASCAR and telling, you know, Jeff Gordon or whatever, whoever's in NASCAR, like, hey, you motherfuckers are faggots. Fuck you. NASCAR is gay and stupid. You know, we know how to race for real. They're part of the street racing syndicate, and they invade NASCAR. Like the Fast and the Furious invades NASCAR or some shit. You know, can you imagine that happening in any other sport? No. That shit like that can only happen in the wrestling business. And that's why, you know, that's what makes wrestling special. Because it's more about entertainment than actual athleticism and actual talent, in-ring talent. And don't get me wrong, I love in-ring talent. I love Rob Van Dam. I'm a huge fan of Rob Van Dam. I used to be a huge fan of Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. You know, I'm a huge fan of Kurt Angle, you know, as a wrestler, not so much as a person, but because he's kind of a Republican douchebag and a prick, but as a wrestler, you know, I'm a huge fan of his in-ring work. But at the end of the day, you gotta have more than just in-ring talent to be the shit in this business. You have to be more than just an athlete. You know, I'm a huge fan of, like, Samoa Joe. I'm a huge fan of, you know, Brock Lesnar, especially his Ruthless Aggression era, you know, compared to now where he's basically just beating the shit out of people doing UFC stuff. Back in like 2002, 2003 when he was much more of a, he used to actually have a lot more wrestling ability compared to now where he just fights and pretends he's a UFC fighter. He's like a special attraction, you know. I mean, and that, you know, I am a fan of wrestling. But I'm a fan of entertainment as well, you know, and I want to be entertained when I watch wrestling. You know, I don't want to just watch a bunch of vanilla midgets and spot monkeys doing a bunch of shit. All right, and that's why this DVD pissed me off, because it talks about how Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and all these people were held down. The only person who was really held down in WCW like that, who had the talent, was Chris Jericho. And that's a fact. That is documented fact. He was the only guy. And even the Big Show, he talks about how, and this was really stupid. This was what really pissed me off, was the Big Show. He's going on about how, you know, he joined the WWE and how he's proud that he joined the WWE. Motherfucker, you are more over in WCW in the NWO as the Giant. So shut the fuck up. Seriously, shut the fuck up. Alright? You bald-headed fat piece of shit. Alright? You are not over in the WWF like that. You are not over in the Attitude Era like that. The only thing people really remember you for is when you chokeslam The Undertaker through the fucking ring. Alright? Nobody talks about the Big Show like that. You were more over as the Giant in WCW in the NWO, motherfucker. Alright? You were more athletic, too, at that point. You were much more in shape. All right, and then you come into the WWF, you get, you know, you talk all this shit, and, you know, you come out here and say, like, oh, WCW sucked, and you bury WCW the way you did when you were much more over in that company than you were in the WWE. And I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon did not give you that raise that you complain about. Eric Bischoff didn't give you a raise, and so you come to WWE. I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon did not give you that raise. So just stop bullshitting. All right, I'm pretty sure he didn't. And when you got buried by Stone Cold, and I'm proud you got buried by Stone. I'm glad Stone Cold Steve Austin used his political power to bury your fucking ass, because you are not a draw in the WWE, motherfucker. So just shut the fuck up. Seriously. All these Dean Malenkos, these Chris Benoits, the murderer, fucking Eddie Guerrero, all these people talking shit about how they were held down in WCW, and you weren't even that fucking good. You weren't even that fucking good. You were not main event material. Granted, I am not a fan of Kevin Nash, but Kevin Nash in the NWO had more drawing ability than you fucking vanilla midgets. And that's a fact. That is a fact. People used to buy NWO Kevin Nash posters all the time when I was in fucking elementary, junior high school. Okay? That's a fact. People brought NWO. Everybody bought NWO. And another thing this DVD doesn't go into is like how badass Scott Steiner was. And they don't talk about how badass he was basically the Stone Cold Steve Austin to WCW. Alright, he used to come out and do whatever the fuck he wanted. He used to come out and do shoot promos on Ric Flair. You know, he used to do he was doing pipe bombs before CM Punk, before fucking Paul Heyman ever did. You know, so yeah. I mean, I just find that amazing, like how they don't go into detail on a lot of shit. And just one more thing that they didn't go into detail on is like how, you know, and since WWE likes to talk shit about how WCW drops the ball, I'm surprised they didn't talk about Bret Hart. I'm pretty sure that they were happy that WCW dropped the ball on Bret Hart, because he didn't want to drop the title to Shawn Michaels. So they're probably still fucking buttered. They're like, oh, well, you know, I don't give a fuck about Bret Hart. You know, they don't talk about how Goldberg ended his career and how, you know, like how WCW should have. And I'm a huge fan of Goldberg. I'm a huge Bill Goldberg mark. I don't give a fuck. I'm a mark for Bill Goldberg. But, you know, that you know, and I'm not blaming him entirely, because that's WCW's fault, the power plant's fault, for not fully training a lot of their wrestlers. Like some people who came in, what was that? Mongo, Steve, McMichael, whatever the fuck his name was. People, like, they didn't even train. They had like Jay Leno in a fucking WCW ring. And I mean, I get it. Like, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, the state of the wrestling business today, I have no problem giving like the tag team championships, like having fucking, like, give me like fucking Seth Rogen and James Franco and making them tag team champions over the fucking New Day. I have no problem. Hell, I would even bring in Kanye West to join the New Day and make them some stereotypical black pieces of shit. And I would get a black person who's a quote unquote sellout just to be the face and compete with them. You know, they would be the baby face. They would act like so non-black, and I would make him get over and beat the shit out of the New Day. But that's just me. You know, fuck all this Tyler Perry, all this gospel soul Kirk Franklin shit. All this, ooh, fuck the New Day, man. Fuck the New Day. But, you know, I mean, but it just makes no sense, like, how they don't even touch upon, you know, Bret Hart being, you know, buried in WCW. Well, not buried, but, like, poorly booked. You know. And they don't even talk about that in the DVD. You know. But basically, what I'm really pissed off about this DVD is that, you know, it doesn't really go into a lot of detail about why people used to love wrestling back then. And why people like me have a passion for this business. You know, even though I hate what this business has become, you know, the concept of wrestling, the concept of unpredictability, the concept of just taking a steel chair and hitting someone over the fucking head, and, you know, just having storylines like Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Triple H, or Sting versus the NWO. or fucking Goldberg versus the NWO, and it just like to give people who are not even into wrestling an idea of why people like me and other people are into wrestling, and why we like, even guys like, I'm not gonna put him over because I'm not a huge fan of the Brad Rules, but nothing against him, but you know, guys like us who aren't into other sports and we don't give a shit about other sports, guys like Diesel 101 Raw, who are not into other sports, but why we love wrestling, you know, and why we love like combat sports, like even like the UFC and stuff, because we can get into that shit, and wrestling is like the easiest sport to get into. I mean, it's not a male soap opera. Fuck anyone who says that. It's like a live action. It's like a comic book version of a sport. It's like an anime version of a sport. It's like a TV show. It's almost, you could compare it to like, it's like comedy, drama. That's why we get into wrestling, because it's entertainment. It's not just a bunch of. It's not supposed to be a bunch of fucking pretty boys, Backstreet Boy looking motherfuckers like Dolph Ziggler, One Direction, hipster looking faggots in the business like Cody Rhodes. It's not about that. It's about entertainment. It's about, cool motherfuckers who you can relate to. Cool motherfuckers who have badass ring attire, like Rob Van Dam and The Undertaker during his Ministry of Darkness days. Vampiro. People who look like badasses, like Bill Goldberg, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Scott Steiner, always talking shit about people. And, doing shoot promos, telling people to know their role and shut their mouth. That's why we get into wrestling, because it's entertainment. Where else, what other sport can you see a motherfucker, like, do a swanton bomb off of a ladder onto a fucking announcer's table? I mean, where else can you see that aside from wrestling? Where else can you see, barbed wire matches? Where else can you see like crazy gimmick? It's like you don't see this shit in other sports. You don't, like, and like the Monday Night Wars era was like the perfect time to be a wrestling fan, because it's just, it was so cool. Like, could you imagine like another football team? Or could you imagine, like, I don't know, like whatever basketball team, whatever football team, invading a fucking another NFL player, who's on the opposite team, invading their house and beating the shit out of them, or bringing like a tank, a rocket, and just declaring war on the other team or something. Or imagine like arena football declaring war on, fucking the NFL or some shit. I mean, you don't see this shit in other sports. That's why wrestling is so awesome, because it's the only sport that has storylines. And this DVD had the opportunity to show, people, why it was such a great time to be a wrestling fan. And it does, to a certain extent. But it doesn't go deep enough. It doesn't, it doesn't, this DVD could have done a lot more, and that's my biggest problem with it. It's very biased. It's full of a lot of shit. And, that's just my opinion. And, that on that note, I'm done. Later.